there's a very high percentage of homeowners in the country right now that have an interest rate that's below 4%.
Yeah, there's a lot of us.
Right, right. It's a blessing,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
if you got a rate that's below 4%, and you can actually put your money in a CD and it could earn 5.5, right then, right? So why are you scrambling to pay off, the mortgage? When actually, there's better use that you can put that money. But that's the way that you can, increase equity. The other thing you can do is improve the property, right? And really, that's where, I think we should talk. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts as a realtor about that, because you can either pay down the mortgage or increase the value of the property through improving the property. And the third thing people don't really think that much about that I like to really, I'm looking to dive into a good bit, not today, but in ongoing conversation with folks, is thinking about, I call it, if you hit that slide, what do I call it?
Community.
Yeah, community citizenry, right? Building and being a intentional contributor to a strong community where you live. Drives property value. You think about the properties that have the best value are in neighborhoods that have a strong sense of community, that have a strong ownership mindset and mentality among the residents. They're vibrant, they're well managed and well taken care of. And if you, as a enlightened homeowner and co-investor with your neighbors, take that mindset and advance it in your community and think proactively about how to strengthen your community, you increase and drive your property values, which increases your equity, which is equity. And most people, the vast majority of Americans, their net worth is tied to two things: either in a 401k, or the equity in their
homes.
Right.
And I just want to take a moment to talk about equity. And it might be $1 million question for some of you that are with us this evening. You really have no idea how much equity you have in your home. So one of the ways that I'm able to help with that is based on the balance of your mortgage payment, which you can log in online and figure out if you were to pay your home off tomorrow, how much money you would need to do that. And the second factor to figure out equity is, what is your house worth? So there's an opportunity for me to ask just a few questions, look at homes that are sold in your community or your area that are similar to yours, and tell you what they're going for. So we subtract the market value from the mortgage balance that you owe, give you an idea of what your equity could be. And that's the shocker for a lot of homeowners. They may not know what homes in their area are selling for. And once they find that out, it's like, whoa, are you kidding me? I have that much equity in my home. It's as simple as that. So if you haven't had a chance to get an idea of what the equity might be in your home, please do reach out to me and I'm happy to give you a more concrete estimate of what we have in terms of equity in your home. And let's just back up a little too. Where did all this equity come from? Remember during the pandemic, if you were looking at the news, if you were talking to your neighbors, if you saw what was going on in the real estate market, we were selling houses. We were financing houses. And we had lines of people looking to get in homes. They were offering way over list price. And so the value of homes were really increased for that 3-4 year period. And that's what was going on. So today you may say, wow, I had no idea. But it was the real estate market that we were a part of a number of years ago that really drove up the value of homes.
Yeah, and to some degree, it's still continuing, not the same pace. The issue is everybody's heard the term supply and demand.
Yep.
And their stats that from earlier this year is that we have a shortage of 4 million houses in the country. And you have a shortage of inventory. and there is demand, for that inventory. It's just going to, support prices continuing to rise. And so right now we haven't solved the housing shortage.
We have not.
Yet. They're not building enough new houses. We need 1 million new houses a year. They're only building about 1 million houses. So we're not making up the ground right now. So it's going to be, we're going to have this housing shortage for a while. What's keeping a little bit of a lid on prices recently is the fact that interest rates have been so high. Yes. So it is tamped down on some of that demand. If these interest rates drop back down into 5% range, you're going to have another wave of demand, which is going to support pushing prices further up. We still haven't really, in most markets in the country, had a pullback in prices. So most likely, particularly in the DMV area and Baltimore area where we are, we're likely to see a continued increase in prices. Not as much as we've seen in the past, 3-4 years, but we're still looking at 3 to 5% price growth, just 3 to 5% more equity.
That's right.
Each year. Right.
So the buyers are having to really come to grips with purchasing homes, and they need to get in the game because the house that they buy today is going to be worth more tomorrow. That's the way it works. And so if they're financially prepared, if they talked to Gene, they got pre-approved for a mortgage, if they weren't ready to get pre-approved, they figure out what they need to do, pay down some debt, save some money, because there are all kinds of plans and strategies to be prepared to buy the home. And then they're now a homeowner, like many of you that have joined us this evening, they're homeowners, and they will be able to tap into the equity that they have. So Gene, thank you so much for talking about that mortgage payment piece. You could knock that out if that's something that you have in your plans. Renovations, home improvements. I've been talking about the backsplash on my cooktop for about 2 years now. I'm going to get that thing done. Some of you may have some ideas for some home improvements or renovations. If you have some ideas, drop it in the chat. We can talk about maybe what it would cost to increase or to, in my case, change the backsplash in my kitchen. Some of you may want to add a deck. Some of you may want to do a patio. There are a lot of homes with unfinished basements. That increases the square footage in your home. So there are some specific strategies that can be used to increase the value of your home while you do renovations or improvements. So, Gene, the question is, how do we get the money to do these kind of projects?
Right.
How will we access our real estate equity?
So there's just a few ways, right? Obviously, you can do what's called a cash out refinance, which means that you are paying off your existing loan and getting a brand new loan for a bigger amount.
Okay.
All right. You have a property that's worth $500,000. Generally speaking, you can get a cash out refinance for 80% of the value of the property. So that means that you can get a loan for $400,000. If you owe $300,000, you could theoretically borrow an additional $100,000. Put that in your bank account, put it to work for you. The issue with cash out refinancing today is, as I said, so many people have 2.5%, 3%
interest rates.
Interest rates right now close to 7%. So it sort of doesn't make sense, to take do a cash out refinance for most people, because you don't want to trade a 3% interest rate for a 7% interest rate just to get a few extra $1,000. That being said, there are certain people, when figuring out whether or not you ought to do a cash out refinance or figuring out how to borrow out of your home, you have to look at the blended cost of all of your debt. All right. So that's not just your mortgage rate. The mortgage rate may be 3%, right? But believe it or not, I see people that have $60,000 worth of credit card.
Yep.
Right.
And the interest rates on those credit card debts, yes. Right. I've seen 29.
Right. So if you got, I did a calculation, earlier today. You had a $300,000 mortgage and at 3%, and and $40,000 worth of credit card debt at 27%, and a $25,000 car note at, let's say, 7%. Your blended cost is about 5.9%. right?
So blended is kind of averaging all of that.
You're averaging all of those rates across it, right? Okay. And so that changes the equation of saying, okay, now if you were able to borrow enough money to pay off all of those debts, yes, then you're not significantly in that scenario increasing your interest costs, and also depending upon there's some considerations from a tax perspective. We can get into that, or I can talk to other people about that. I generally say consult your tax advisor. Yeah. But to a large degree, uh, uh, mortgages are tax deductible. That tax adjusted rate, and maybe in the mid sixes, may be very comparable to what you're actually spending overall. The caveat to doing that, you know, when you're taking money out of your house, it can be a smart strategy, but it's a dumb strategy if you're going to go back and create the same behaviors that got you into the debt before, right? Okay. So, you know, that's the caveat to that. Now, so you got cash out refinancing is one way to go. HELOCs and HELOANs. A HELOAN is a home equity loan. It's a fixed rate loan. It's a second mortgage. So a lot of folks, they're leaving their first mortgage in place because it's at such a low rate. They need $100,000 for home improvements or, you know, for other things that we'll talk about later. And they take out a second mortgage loan. It's a fixed rate loan for a defined term, 15, 20, 30 years. Typically, a lot of them are 15-year loans that have fixed payments. Those rates these days are in the double-digit category. Not 9 to 11%, could be 13, 14%, depending on if you got a lower credit score. A HELOC, home equity line of credit, is like a credit card. You get a line of credit for that same maybe $100,000, and the rate is variable and it's based on the prime rate. Currently, the prime rate is 8.5%. All right. Okay. Back when the rates were, and rates were really low, prime rate was in twos, right? So the prime has gone up significantly, but it's variable. So it could go up. Prime goes up further. That rate could go up. Most likely, though, prime is actually more likely to be coming down in the near future. So your HELOC rate is typically prime plus a percentage. And that percentage is going to be based upon multiple factors: your credit score, typically your credit score, and your loan to value, how much money you're taking out of the property. Right, exactly.
So everybody's scenario would be different when it comes to a HELOC.
Exactly.
Don't listen to your neighbor. Yeah. You need to have your consultation so you can understand what a HELOC would look like for you.
Right. Change it up. And then so in addition to the HELOC, there's a new thing that's come out right now. I'm doing some research on it. It's called home equity investment. All right. There's the product basically is you can get a lender or an investor to invest in your property and give you cash, and there's no repayment required until you trigger an economic problem. So you refinance when you the first mortgage, or when you sell the home, and the investor is being paid because they are now becoming a co-investor in you in the appreciation of your property.
Co-investor, so they don't own my house.
They don't own your house. They own a lien on your house. They have a lien on your house. They have a second position on your house behind the lender, first mortgage lender. But what they get to do is, let's say when they gave you $50,000, your house was worth $500,000, and that $50,000 was maybe, let's say, 10% of the value of the property. Your property goes up to $700,000, and you sell it 10 years later, went up another, let's say 750. So it went up 50%. They're going to get 10% of that 50% increase. They're going to get another $25,000 in payback. And so that's a new wave product that's coming out. The appeal to homeowners is that it doesn't require a payment, because the investor's just sitting there, waiting.
So they're waiting for you to sell your home, which could be 5 or 10 years down the road.
Right. And so there's, we don't offer that right now. It's a very niche type product. I think we could see some adoption, with that product, down the line. Then obviously, then really for folks that, some folks they want to sell their house, right? They want to buy something different than what they have.
There are a lot of downsizers now.
Right.
A lot of people looking to get their big home into a smaller home because life has changed.
Right. But so many people don't want to sell their house first.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're nervous. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, is that, and then don't they have, you got people that feel like there's so much I need to get done to my house before I sell it.
Improvements, yeah. Yeah. They haven't made improvements over the last 10, 20 years, and they feel like in order to compete or make the most that they can when they sell their home, then they do need to do some good. Sometimes very simple, but it still is money out of your pocket to redo floors or paint an entire home. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where bridge loan comes in. And bridge loans were a big thing years ago. They went away. They're starting to make a little bit of a comeback. If you have, and they only really work right now if you got a lot of equity, maybe, 40, 50% equity. Because what the bridge loan, what it'll do is take, and give you some of the equity that you have in the property now so that you can use that money as a down payment for your next property before you before you sell your current home. So that's a strategy, is go away. Yeah. And then finally, in certain cases is to tap the equity. Question is just, should you sell? Right? Mm-hmm. And so here's a use case I wanted to, talk to you about. I think it's good. I had a conversation with a client, a friend, the other day, trying to figure this out, right? Ultimately, they want to buy a different product than what they have today, as a primary residence, but they also want to they want to invest in real estate. And so the question is, they've got, let's say, about $250,000 worth of equity in the property, today. The question is, do they fix up the property a little bit? Mm-hmm. And then do a cash out refinance or a home equity loan or some type to pull the cash out, as much cash as they can, so that then they can buy their next place and hold on to that property as an investment. But this really just comes down to strategy, right? It's not necessarily right or wrong answer for every scenario. So asking the question, well, is there a strategic reason for keeping this particular property, right? Mm-hmm. Is this in a neighborhood or an area where property values are likely to continue to increase? Or is it in an area where the cash flow from, rental is going to be likely, pretty strong? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because what you got to consider is that you're going to have to pull that equity out. You need the equity to buy the next place. Right. You're going to have to borrow more money, so to make the payment higher. Mm-hmm. Which is going to eat into the cash flow that you get from the rental. Right. So in their case, because it really wasn't, this property wasn't really strategic to hold on to, I recommended that they sell the property. Sell the property. They can take all the cash, because the other issue when you're trying to pull the cash out of a property that you own today, do a cash out refinance or home equity loan, you're not going to get all of the equity. Correct. You're only going to get a percentage. Cash out refinance, you get up to 80%. A HELOC or HELOAN, you might get up to 90, 95%. But when you sell it, you get 100%, right? And then you just take that cash. Now they can actually take that cash. Mm-hmm. We talk about this later, and use that money to buy their next place, still preserve some cash, mm-hmm. so that they can actually buy maybe multiple investment properties that might create more cash flow, and they might be in a more strategic location than where they are. So that's the type of thinking that when you have the consultation professionals like us, help you walk through those.
And I want to mention too, if it is a homeowner that plans to sell their home and take their proceeds to help them in their next purchase, one of the things that as a buyer's agent, I love to tell buyers is you're more attractive when you show the seller that you are putting 20, 30, 40% down. And people are always wondering, well, how do I put that much down? Well, it's the proceeds you have from selling that last house. And there are strategies and ways that you can sell your home and maybe stay in it, do a rent back. We have midterm rentals that are fully furnished now. You could sell your home, put your items in storage, and go live in a place where everything's already covered in the monthly payment you're paying while you look for that next house. And that could be a month or 2 or 3. You don't have to establish internet, cable, or any of it. You don't even have to furnish it. So there are just a number of ways. You have to stay with a family member. You can live on your own in an interim rental while you find that ideal house, because now you have the cash to be a very attractive buyer.
Right.
And that's what the next seller wants. They want a buyer who is strong, who is already pre-approved. They're putting a significant amount of money down, and they can close quickly.
It's just, a lot of people just, the thought of moving once is hard. Moving twice is tough. But, when you do, the upside is the type of deal you might be able to get.
That's right. That's right. You will be able to probably more quickly purchase that dream home, because when you have a house that you still need to sell and you found this dream home, that seller is thinking, well, they have to sell their house and that's 30, 60, 90 days. Are they going to be able to buy mine? So it really is, everybody has a plan, and it's really good to kind of talk that through so you can understand, is the goal that next home? Is the goal that relocation? Now you're looking to move out of state. Are you looking to downsize? So now you have the equity to probably almost buy something cash. That's an option too, if you're looking for a home that will cost about the amount of equity that you have. So those are just some additional considerations if your plan is to use your equity to make a purchase.
Right. One thing I'd like to talk about as well, along that vein, is a lot of people, but one of the challenges, one of the reasons why we have this inventory issue that we have right now is this thing called the lock-in effect, right? And the lock-in effect is because so many people won't move, even though they really probably need to for job, family size reasons, for many reasons. They mobility or whatever.
Going up down steps.
But they won't move because they have a 2.5% interest rate and they don't want to give it up. And so, but I think that is if you feel like, for people that feel like they're in that space, right? They got that, they feel locked in, don't feel trapped in the house. Rates are 7, I have 2.5, I can't move, right? Then you don't have to give up that 2.5%, right?
Okay, tell us about that.
You can, that 2.5% rate makes your property a really, really good investment property for you. Because your mortgage payments really pretty low.
Right.
And not only have home prices increased, but rents have increased.
Oh my goodness, rent is off the chain. Yes.
So now think about what you can look at your mortgage payment and then look at what rents are for in your neighborhood for that house. And then you think about, okay, well, if I buy another property, let's say maybe if you have some money set aside, a little bit of money, you don't need much to buy. You have your down payment buys. The mortgage payment is going to be a lot higher than maybe what you're comfortable with. But if you're all of a sudden you're able to generate $1,500 a month in cash flow from your rental, that changes the equation, right? When you think about it that way, so it's something to consider. For folks too.
And I've worked with a number of sellers as well who initially say, well, nobody's going to rent this 4-bedroom house, this 5-bedroom house. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. There are all types of rentals on the market. And so the home that you have today is somebody's home tomorrow. So information is really power. If you're thinking about, well, how much rent do you think I can get? I can help you with that. I can show you homes that are similar to yours that have rented in the last 12 months or the last 6 months, and you will be able to compare what the inside of those look like to the inside of your home. Maybe you do a little bit of an improvement if you need to, but to understand how much rent you can get and how much cash flow or profit or any of those terms that you want to use that can then help you with the new home that you've moved into. So we really want to consider all of that.
Yeah. And then some people say, I don't want to be a landlord. You don't have to be a long-term landlord, right?
No.
What you could do is leverage that really low rate. Well, first of all, it's a couple of things. If you've got a low rate mortgage and you had a FHA loan, say you took out an FHA loan and the rate was 3% or 2.5%. You market your home. You can market the fact that that loan is assumable, right? That means that the person that buys your house can assume that mortgage, which is going to probably create a lot of demand for your house. And think about another house that's on the market. Now, I don't like assumptions because I don't get to do the loan, right? But it's still something people need to know about. Your house has a 3% interest rate and you're selling it for $500,000. There's a house on the same street that's on the market for $500,000. This guy that doesn't have an assumable loan and they've got to pay 6.5%, 7%. It's a huge difference in the financing cost. So, assumable loans are something to, that are a thing to be aware of. Here's the caveat to that. If the seller owes $350 on that $500,000 house, you're not getting a $500,000 loan at 3%. You're getting that same mortgage that they had. And so you got to pay the seller in cash the difference. Yes. In the price. So, but the other thing is that where I was going originally is that you can actually maybe just be a landlord for a short term. And a lot of folks sort of need help. A lot of people rent with an option to buy.
Yes.
Is a really good scenario for them. So you could find a tenant that might buy your property, but in the interim, you got a really low mortgage.
Yes.
That is able to create some cash flow for you, and then you can ultimately sell that property.
Gene, you've given us some ideas. Some of these do have some risks that we might want to consider. So I just wanted to see if you could.
Well, I wanted to, before we jump into the risk, just a couple of things on some strategies in terms of what makes sense to invest, right? We'll talk about different vehicles to get the money out. And obviously, most folks, you want to get the money out so you buy the next place. So trading up for the next property. We talk about that, right? That makes sense when you're improving your living situation for whatever reason to get a property that is suitable for you at this next stage of your life. You sell your house, trade up, pull at it to do that. The other thing is you can invest in the elimination of unsecured debts. And I like to determine that way because it truly is like an investment. When you pay off debts that aren't secured, you're taking some money out of an asset that you have. You're borrowing against an asset you're creating a liability that's tied to an increasing asset, an appreciating asset, and paying off unsecured debts that are at much higher interest rates.
What's an example of an unsecured?
Unsecured debt is a credit card, right?
Credit cards,
Credit card. A car loan is secured, but it's on a depreciating asset.
Yes.
Nowadays people can get personal loans that are unsecured. There's all of these SoFi, Prosper, all these companies out here that you can call up and you can get $20,000 in 2 days, as unsecured, debt, 14, 15% interest. But, so you have the ability to actually pay that off. You think about it, you trade even if rates are 7%, you trade a secured, a debt against an appreciating asset that's, to some degree tax deductible, and you're paying off a much higher interest debt. That really makes a lot of sense as an investment. The other thing that I have on the screen is investing what I call intangible assets, right? So hard asset obviously is the house, right? Or it could be the cars. Um, intangible assets are those things that you can't really touch, but there's value. And, and the biggest intangible asset is education.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And intangible assets are not to be downplayed. Because you think about, I gave the example to my team some months ago think about Apple. I don't remember the actual numbers. Apple, the company, they're worth $1 trillion to $2 trillion or something. The value of all of their assets that they own is not $2 trillion. It's intangible assets, patents, the brand, so education is an intangible asset, yes, right? So it makes sense to invest. And people feel like when you're, borrowing against, reasonably borrowing against a property to invest smartly in your personal education, smartly in your personal education, your child's education, that makes some sense, as an investment. Obviously, reinvesting back in the property makes sense, right? Yes. Because if you to pull $50,000 out and you borrow an initial $50 or $100,000 and you put that into an improvement, that's going to increase the value of the property. And maybe, Gersha, I don't know if you have any specific things that as realtors. What are those key things that are? And we do. We actually have a report that comes out from the National Association of Realtors every year. And it actually outlines the type of improvement you may do in your property and what the return on that investment might be. So if you are considering to do improvements I love to say improve it while you can enjoy it, okay? Don't do it just to sell. So if you're thinking about, I'm living in this home and I'd like to change all my carpeting to hardwood. Do it while you can enjoy it. And this is why you may use that as one of your strategies. But when you decide to sell in 3 years, it is an asset that will be attractive to a buyer. And now you don't have to replace your carpet to sell your home. And so we do have some hard information that we can share with you if you're thinking about making some improvements, whether it's to stay and sell later or to improve not to sell. Yeah, I think it's good to have that information when you're making that investment. Exactly. And the next bullet is investing in real estate. Yes. I want to talk about that a little bit because, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can actually keep your current house as an investment property, as we talked about, and then buy the next place. Or you can actually, I've seen, I do it all the time, folks that want to get into real estate investing, either buy and hold or even real estate development of some type where they're fixing and flipping a property or, participating in a syndicate, of investors that are doing some, creative real estate investing. Borrowing when you borrow against your property to do that in a reasonable manner with your research and homework done, you're just moving money from one asset to another, but you're growing your wealth because now you got another property that's appreciated. And I just had a client, Gene, that sold their home about 9 months ago and have reached out to me to say they are now looking for just a 2-unit, not one home that would have one tenant, but they're looking for, and there are a number of these in Baltimore. It's a townhome. You enter it, and there is a 1-bedroom apartment on one level, and upstairs is another. You don't have to think multiple apartments, 4 or 5, when you buy an investment property. It can truly be a townhome that's divided into 2 units. Some of these investment properties that are for sale actually have tenants in them already. And so you don't have to start with, I don't even have a tenant. And if you don't personally want to manage a property, you can get a property management company and they will help find the tenant for you, collect the rent, and do some of those other things that you may not be interested in. So it's definitely
a market right now where you too can find small investment properties.
And one of the things that keeps people from actually pursuing this is they don't think they can do it, right? People are looking for, people are taking extra jobs, right? DoorDash, Uber, their own houses, so they, struggling to make ends meet just a little bit. I'm because I'm not saying that buying investment properties for somebody that's actually really struggling financially like that. But investing in real estate can actually, generate cash flow. And you work with some seasoned folks that can help you make these decisions. And qualifying is not as hard as people think. Okay, you've got to have enough cash. You got to put, generally speaking, to buy an investment property, 20% down. But so many people, talking about the equity they have a substantial amount of equity in their properties and are able to take out a line of credit that's large enough without taking all of the equity out of their account. Right. A large line of credit that's large enough to actually use as down payment on a investment property. Now people say, well, I don't know if I qualify. When as a lender, when we're qualifying you for an investment property, we actually utilize the projected rental income from that property in your debt to income ratio calculation.
Say that one more time.
All right. So when we're qualifying you for the investment property purchase, looking at your debt to income ratio, we utilize the rental projected rental income from the property you're buying. And we include that in your income, even if you don't have a tenant in it yet.
Okay.
All right. And so I always ask people when they say, can I qualify to buy an investment property? If you are comfortably affording your current bills now, then generally speaking, you're going to be able to, and you have cash to buy the rental property, you're going to 99 times out of 100 qualify for the rental property because your current debt ratio on your current obligations is fine.
Right.
The new property, unless you're overpaying for the property, the new property should be at least close to a break even, if not positive cash flow.
Yeah.
So it's not creating an additional debt.
Right.
So you can qualify. So a lot of people don't even think they can qualify, but you can. That's really just a matter of having.
So that's an idea that you've been playing around and throwing around. Talk with us. I'm able to let you know what's out here right now that might be for sale, that's currently already set up for rentals, and do a little research, tell you what the rents are going for in the area. Then you're going to be able to have a conversation with Gene to understand how much money you might need down to purchase it and what the cash flow could be after you have made your investment. So you want to work with a team that's available to just run the scenarios, run the numbers, and give you some options for how you can build wealth with the equity you have in your home.
And then the last bullet is, invest in a business. It's actually, that's one of the great things about owning real estate is that it actually can put you in a better position to have the liquidity or the asset that you can leverage to some degree to actually help launch a business as well. So.
And the piece about the business, and I know a number of individuals who have purchased, whether they've been franchises, and so if you're familiar with a number of the franchises that might be available to buy, they've been able to help some of the individuals who are getting out of the business because they're retiring. You might know folks who've had brick and mortar businesses and they no longer are looking to run those because it's time for them to retire. You can buy an existing business. Yeah. It's already in place. It has staff. It has a presence in the community, which we're going to circle back to, increasing our community presence. Forgot that word you used. Community citizenship. Yeah, right. We can do that. You know that UPS store in your community. You too can figure out, I can buy an existing business. I can buy a franchise that would be of value in the community I'm in. Or you may be looking to launch your own business. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Good stuff. So, Gene, let's talk a little bit about some of those risks. Everybody is maybe thinking in their minds, let's think about this.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to come off as suggesting that people brazenly go out, start stripping the equity out of their property to do, all of these other things. Definitely, there needs to be consideration of risk, as well. And the number one is over leverage, right? You don't want to take all of the equity of your property.
Yeah.
There are actually a couple of places that you can actually do a HELOC, I think, for 100% of the value of the property. Not a big fan of the leaving yourself no with
Nothing. Yes, that's right. That's right.
It's for many people that's the biggest net asset that they have is the equity in their homes. So be careful of over leveraging, and the next bullet really ties into that, which is market fluctuations. Even though property values have been going up significantly, recently, they can also come down, right? And it never goes up in a straight line and never goes down. It's almost like, it's like this, there's going to be a period of a correction at some point. We don't see it on the near term horizon in our market, but there are some markets around the country where we are seeing price corrections, Florida in some parts, in part because of, climate issues. Insurance is so crazy, right? I've got a client buying a property in Florida right now, and the insurance premium is almost $7,000. The house is $700,000. So, that's going to put a cap on prices, right? But generally speaking, market prices go up, but they don't always go up. So, that's one of the reasons why you're going to leave yourself an equity cushion. You don't want to strip out all your equity.
Equity cushion. Right. I like that. You like that term, equity cushion. You need to leave us. Yes.
And then interest rates changes. This is where the interest rates. I mean, we just went through a period of unprecedented interest rate increases.
Yes.
And that can have a significant impact on your property value or the financial dynamics of the cash flow on an investment and things of that nature. So it's important to take that into consideration. There's property specific issues. That's where having a good realtor advise you, making, we're thinking about, this is when it comes to buying investment property with leveraging your equity and, to move into investment purchases. Property specific risks, such as maintenance. You have to think about maintenance.
Yeah.
For a property. You don't just look at, okay, this is what I'm going to get in rent. This is what the mortgage is. There's other stuff.
Yeah. You gotta have, insurance. You have to have a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah.
In the market where you're as an investor, if you're a real estate investor, marketability for rents in that space. You might buy something that's already rented right now. But what is the marketability once those people leave?
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
And then also understand, is there a high degree of tenant turnover in that market? Because tenant replacement, it's expensive.
That's a cost.
It's a cost, right? And so those are things you need to consider. That's the type of thing that Gersha, the realtor can advise you on thinking about investment, purchases. Overall economic conditions, what's happening in the broader economy, in the world economy. And does it make sense as a time to purchase or move into or to take on too much exposure to real estate? Something to consider. Obviously, your personal financial health. If you know that things are a little shaky in certain areas, even though you might be able to pull it off, it's never a good idea to take on a significant endeavor like own real estate. If there are if your employment situations a little shaky, right? Or that there's some major obligation that's looming out there that can hang over your head. Legal considerations with regard to like zoning, for properties. What can you do? Even I just had a client back out of the deal because he did the work to find out he's in contract in a property, but he couldn't build a fence in the backyard. And that was important to him because he has little kids.
Right.
So, determine, those types of things. But just in general, just do your research, work with a qualified professional.
Yes.
To help you navigate it. So I don't want to scare people away from investing,
No.
but it's just to say this is why it's really important, because these are the types of things that you have to think about. And that's why you have to work with a really good team of folks that advise you.
Yep. And we're here. We can answer questions as you begin, if you're in the beginning stages of considering, what can I do? I've always wanted to buy an investment property, or I'm considering downsizing. What might be a great area to buy a smaller home? If I'm going to relocate, I'm connected to an entire network of realtors, both in the U.S. and abroad, so that if you are looking for a property that might be in a completely 5 states over, you want to speak to somebody there before you decide, yeah, I want to move to this area. So doing that kind of homework, understanding the market in another community that you're interested in relocating to, all of those pieces, we can help you with. We can really help you with that. So don't always run to Google for information. You want to talk to the human beings that do this stuff every day and gather the information that would be most relevant as you decide what you're going to do with your equity.